Welcome to the Unzip Mind podcast. My name is Nick Smith. I'm here with Greg Minikis and Dylan Jessen.
Why, hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, welcome back.
Good to see you. So we are continuing our detox conversation today, but in a more medical direction.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're back.
Yeah.
So last week we were talking about pretty much detox in general.
Detox,
sort of detoxification, like
addiction, the sort of dynamics of it, social dynamics too.
Some of the psychological aspects of it.
Psychological, yeah.
Yeah, so you can just flip back through if whatever you're listening to and listen to that episode if you want to get filled in.
More of an intro to detox.
Yeah, exactly. So we were diving into that, and today what we're diving into is like what Greg was just talking about. Is we're going to dive into the medical side of it and the medical assisted detoxes, and like what we kind of see in differences and what we've experienced in ourselves, and then specifically DTs.
Yeah,
and group.
It's a big part of what we do. Like we have one entire unit dedicated to detox, and it's especially for benzodiazepines and alcohol withdrawal. You can die from those. So I'm not sure about benzos, but with alcohol, when you're detoxing, if you're really detoxing hard, if you've been drinking a lot and you've been drinking a lot for a long time, you are at risk of seizures. Seizures can be lethal. You're at risk of heart attack and stroke, actually.
Yeah.
Benzos, I think there are similar risks. I get confused, but like
both.
it is.
Yeah,
both. Okay.
Yep.
One thing that blew my mind, honestly, because I didn't know, because when I quit drinking, I was 23, young, healthy, active. I metabolized things really fast. It wasn't that bad for me. I was also still using a lot of cocaine and acid.
Yeah, I wonder.
Okay, so that was probably. I'm gonna be honest. That probably played some. Yeah. So that probably played something into it. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
But that being said, I didn't know the severity of alcohol detoxes until I was in school and getting my KDAC.
Yeah.
Right.
Surprised me.
In the
It's
process.
like, alcohol, it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's it's not that you shake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it's so severe that it is when you have somebody detoxing and you can't get them into a facility, like they need a beer, like just to level them out and bring them to a state where they're okay, so they don't have seizures. Like that's how vital and how dangerous and deadly detoxing from, or like like becoming sober, or just detoxing, not even becoming sober, just detoxing from alcohol can be to your body.
Like if it's not time to start the detox process, like if you're not in the kind of facility that can get that, or like you're in the
that can observe you and watch you.
Yeah, they can observe you, that can treat you with we can talk about like sort of treatments for detox and like to prevent seizures and stuff like that. Honestly, having a small drink can save your life.
That was the craziest. Like that wasn't the craziest, but that was something that really struck me when I was in my KDAC and like my peer support, like the peer support stuff I was doing, and learning about aiding people who are detoxing from alcohol or trying to get into a detox facility and become clean from it. Yeah. Like sometimes that's what you have to do to make sure that they can get there, because they have to keep their body, and it comes down to homeostasis. Like obviously we don't start there, right? But like we brought it up last week, where like you're consuming the substance and you're forcing it into your body in excess, right? So our neurochemistry changes with it, right? And all of a sudden you're not giving your body that anymore.
Right.
It's gonna freak out.
Yeah.
Right. And
this is how we function normally. This is how the body functions normally now.
Yeah. So now that is your now new homeostasis level. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you're changing it up again on it.
Yeah.
But it is a lot harder on your body to go down than up, right? Starting addiction isn't hard. I want that to be very clear.
Yeah.
And that's what's so scary about it.
Yeah, it's all too easy to get hooked.
You start something and you're like, oh, that feels good. And then all of a sudden you're down the road and you're like not in the place you want to be in.
Especially when
you feel shitty.
When you're trying to get off it for the first time, or for whichever time, like now, it's a lot harder to go down than to come up. I agree, man. And alcohol especially is very scary, because when people start to detox from alcohol, they are shaking a lot.
A lot.
Like I've seen so many completely able-bodied people, you know, because after they finish detoxing, I see how they move, and like this is someone who can walk fine. They're walking like they're 100 years old.
They can't even
like,
take their medication because they can't hold the water.
They can't even hold the water.
know?
It's so sad and scary.
I used to have to drink a beer first thing in the morning, so I wasn't shaking.
Right. That sucks, man.
So like, yeah, it's horrible, and like, I don't. It just blew my mind that like that can happen to you, and it's on something that you can walk into a convenience store and buy.
Yeah, it's
legally.
everywhere. Yeah.
Like that blows my mind. I mean, I'm not saying criminalize alcohol here. I'm just saying like it's that easy.
The ads are everywhere. Like
I just think it makes it that much more dangerous.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just like, you know, I talked about, you know, my drug use and how I was able to I had to restart my life. I had to not look at all that stuff. Alcohol, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Alcohol's in your face every day. And pretty much, basically, whatever you're doing, it's on every other commercial. Right. It's just accepted. And so that's what makes it that much more difficult. And for the people that think like, oh, that's not going to be me through detox, like that's just, you know, like my body won't react to that level. I'll even tell you, you know, in our line of work, you know, sometimes you see sometimes the same patient for years, you know, they're just coming in and out of the hospital, kind of in that routine of out and using or drinking and then coming back to detox. And sometimes when you'll get a patient that you haven't seen for a while and like something has changed, you know, or something, their liver has failed or they've never had a seizure before and they're, you know, having multiple seizures on their stay because their body just reacts differently that time. And those are, you know, a lot of times those patients might say something like, I wasn't even drinking as much as I, you know, was drinking before. It wasn't even nearly as bad as I was. But the body just, you know, will react in those ways. And it's really scary. Like those seizures are life threatening.
Yeah.
And that's something we were talking about last week, where the difference between like your and mine experience with detoxing from our drugs of choice, like we're no community, right?
Yeah.
And within a medical facility, when you're getting detox and you're having medical assistance, essentially it's a community, and that's what's keeping you safe.
That helps, yeah.
And that's and it's not going to make it go away, right? It's not going to make the pain, or it's not going to make the not funness of the detox. It's not going to make it disappear or go away. It is going to dull the edges of it, and then it's there to make sure that, hey, we're going to help it and make sure hopefully you don't seize.
Yeah.
And if you do, then you're in
here.
a safe environment.
Yeah, and you're being observed and you're being assisted. And like, I really enjoy working with that style of patients. It's why I was going to get my KDAC and why I was pursuing that for a little while.
KDAC is certified addiction counselor?
Yeah, certified addictions drug counselor.
Okay.
And I was like part way through it, and then just between work and just moving here and the pandemic and all this other stuff, I was literally falling asleep on my laptop when I was like in class, not deliberately, but like because of my work schedule and everything, so it was just not worth it.
Took on too much, yeah.
Yeah, I took on too much. I had to pause. But a lot of things were really interesting about it, and maybe there will be a day where I pick it back up and pursue it. But anyway.
You still have, you probably have a pretty sizable impact with a lot of our patients who are detoxing, like you too, Nick. I mean, just some of the things that you guys have said to me in conversation, these are like kind of profound insights about addiction and detox that like I haven't thought of. Like in the last episode, like you guys both like said there were certain lines that you both said that like were like, wow, I like haven't thought of it like that before. So I think that it's probably really helpful for people who are detoxing in our facility.
It's one of those things where yes, there's a lot of research, and yes, there's a lot of written documentation of detoxes, and you can look at it from a very academic and a very medical and a very like physical level for sure.
Yeah.
But you don't know it until you go through it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like, sure, you can read about it and you can know the symptoms I'm going through, but unless you have experienced it and have gone through it, you can't really talk about it.
Right.
And the other side of the fence is you don't understand you know?
No, I haven't been through it, and I still, with confidence, can say to my patients who are detoxing, like, I know this sucks. I'm here to help you get through
Absolutely.
this. But like, there is a certain depth that I feel like I can't reach in those conversations that I think maybe you guys can, and I think it's really like I feel very gratified to have you guys working alongside me so that you can like really connect to people in that way. And I think it's really cool for them.
Well, I'm sure I could speak for Dylan, but not to speak for Dylan, but for myself, that's why I'm in this work. You know, that's what I love more than anything, is to see the contrast. Even if it was psych, you know, someone who's completely psychotic, hallucinating, maybe their voices in their head are horribly tormenting them, and they get stabilized on meds and are a completely different person. It's the same with detox. Like you just see it more commonly with detox because you see them at their worst. You see them, you know, at their most broken, and then getting to see them before they leave or discharge. And also because that's where my passion. I love that because I know that feeling, and I know that strength that you're able to have. You know, that I appreciate those times in my life, those crisis times, which have been commonly mostly with substance. You know, when I was getting clean, but I've had those crisis times where you're at your bottom and you are broken, and what you're able to build from that is just incredible, you know. And so
I mean, with opioids specifically, so you have experience with opioid detox. So we do have a very clear. So for alcohol, benzodiazepines help with that process. They make it safer, prevent you from seizing. With opioids, there is a pretty well established medical tradition of treating the detox process. So the one that we see the most in the hospital is Subutex and Suboxone. So these are opioid substitutes, replacements. I don't really know how they work. I think they act in the brain chemistry in a similar way, so it sort of prevents the detox from being as severe. So we do a lot of that. There's also methadone clinics. That's like an older way to treat. Like people go on maintenance, like if they're trying to get off of heroin, they'll go on methadone, like maintenance, and that's a way to sort of stay clean without having the cravings. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that or experience.
I think, bottom line, any way you find sobriety, good for you. Yeah. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And there are things that can help the process of detox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they can, and that's important, like we were saying. So like detoxes can be deadly. They are very painful. They're very uncomfortable. So being in a facility or being assisted is 100% good on you. The fact that you are facing something that difficult in your life and you're like buckling up and doing it, bravo.
Yeah.
And I think having medically assisted detoxes and having maintenance like that,
these like substitutions.
Yeah. Well, it's not substituting. That's the difference. You're not, because like if you want to say substituting, you're when bringing in that kind of context, it's like I'm moving from this addiction to this, and I'm filling the void. I'm getting high, because when you're using Subutex or methadone, you're not getting high from it.
Maybe substitute isn't the technical term for it, but it definitely does like a sort of neurochemical substitution.
Yeah.
It's a stand-in for the opioid without giving you the sort of high. It just sort of like almost tricks your brain into thinking that you're getting
exactly.
Prevents detox.
Or replacing.
Like replacement. I do definitely believe in that. I've seen how so if you Miles Davis, he was a heroin addict, and he famously just kind of like locked himself in a room and went cold turkey and just detoxed hard for like 5 days and just had a miserable time and then never used again.
Not fun.
Whatever. Not fun. Not necessarily what people should expect their heroin detox to look like. If you, let's say you're a heroin addict and you decide to go to stop using, and you just are by yourself, let's say you go a few days and then the cravings get really bad and maybe you don't have a lot of social support in your recovery, and then you go out and use. If you were using at a really high dose and you have been off for a few days and then you go and maybe you start back at the dose that you were at, that could be lethal overdose.
Very quickly.
Yep.
And it's even nowadays, it's even more dangerous because of fentanyl. And fentanyl has gotten so bad where it's not very mixed anymore either. It's like straight just fentanyl.
Yeah.
And
we see a lot
of massively more potent.
So
massively more potent. And that's what's so scary is that if you go into a hospital, if you go into an ED, right, because you got picked up, unfortunately we see it a lot, and it happens because it's so quickly. And that's what's so scary about all of this whole process. And it's one thing that's really hard to understand when people who don't come from that world are viewing it and they're like, why would somebody do that to themselves? Well, they're probably not choosing to.
Yeah.
At that point, there's probably been some circumstances that have led to one thing and another, and that is the outcome. And it's not really choosing. It just sucks. The whole process sucks, right?
And you can't be expected to do this detox like Miles Davis. Just be this like god of willpower and just be able to like just tough it out by yourself for 5 days.
That's not ideal.
You shouldn't expect yourself to be able to do that, especially given that risk that if you do then relapse during your detox, and you go back to that same dose, that could be a lethal overdose.
Well,
so that's why I think it's really valuable for us to have these sort of like locked inpatient detox clinics where it's
that's where it's like if you go
supervised.
into an ED. Like I was saying, so if you go into an ED and you're in there for 3 days because of whatever reason, and then you are discharged from that ED and you're like, gotta go get my medicine.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, that's what you hear it said. You're like that. You'll hear it called that a lot out in the world.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's viewed.
It's kind of dark.
Right. It is. It sucks, but that's how it's viewed. And that person who was only gone for 3 days in an ED will go out and doesn't know. You don't know. You don't know the quantity of the mix of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they hit the same amount that they're used to instantly. And it doesn't, and it sucks, so.
So, sorry, what were you going to say?
You mentioned it earlier, that I kind of want to circle back and like bring up is DTs.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about, you can't do it on, there are some situations with DT when someone's in DTs where I cannot even fathom them doing it alone.
Yeah. So just for the audience, opioid detox will not give you what's called delirium tremens, DTs. Delirium tremens you get from alcohol detox, and you get it from benzo detox. And we see a lot of DTs from alcohol detox specifically.
Yeah. So
we talked about the shaking, extreme shaking, but that really is the least of it. Like DTs are very scary.
Oh man, it's complete how it kind of is perceived is someone is in kind of the mid dream and awake state.
Yeah.
Stay up for days and it's like everything's a complete hallucination or dream. I mean, it's
people don't know what the surfaces that they're looking at. Like I've seen so much of people scrabbling with their fingertips at the corner of a table because they think that they're opening like a latch.
Yeah.
And
Or
there's no
someone's
latch
trying
there.
to move things that are bolted to walls because
Yeah.
they think they're working on their car.
Yeah.
And they'll do for hours and use, and those are you get a lot where they move quick. They're running, because they're just their brain is in this in and out dream state as well as all of their physical symptoms of detox.
Because not everybody who is detoxing from alcohol gets delirium tremens.
No,
and I would say that not even anybody who's severely detoxed from alcohol gets DTs. Because there are people.
It's some rare occurrences. I feel
it is pretty rare. It's rare, but it's not as rare as I'd like. So most people that I see severe alcohol detox, extreme shakes, just sweating, just intense amount of sweat,
inability to sleep.
You can't sleep, just body discomfort. But someone in DTs doesn't necessarily get that extreme with this sort of shakes. Like there are people who are detoxed from alcohol so hard that they can't walk, but they're not in DTs. So somebody who's in DTs, like they may be pretty fast on the feet, fleet of foot, strong too.
Well, that's what's for me.
It's scary.
What is so scary? Like so, if you're in a facility, you're safe, right?
Yeah.
Because you're in whatever facility it may be, you're safe. There are employees.
Yeah.
There are things. There are safeguards. Hence why you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
DTs, you don't
imagine
understand.
somebody
that.
at home by themselves.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Because like we've talked about it, like we were just hinting, it's not like an acid trip, okay? Or it's not like a trip where where the real world is. The environment you're in.
You can see that a doorway is a doorway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their environment, I've seen DTs they're home. They're somewhere else. It's somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Or I've had where they think you're in their home.
Yeah.
You're on a 1-to-1, like you're with them to keep them safe, and they think you're in their
Their
home.
house.
Like, what are you doing
constantly?
in my house?
Yeah.
or there's a different time. we're 20 years, 30 years back.
And you're like my cousin or something.
Yeah, and
catching your school bus and you're 50.
Imagine,
like it just,
imagine if somebody's at home alone, they could walk out into the street easily. They could turn gas lines on. They could. It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
And this is all because you quit drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Or quit taking your anxiety medication without tapering.
Which like it seems something simple like, oh, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm drinking too much. I'm going to stop drinking. But like the risks, like we can't emphasize enough how much risk there is to stop drinking by yourself.
When you're when you're a very heavy long-term drinker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
That's why I support, like, there is no shame in walking into a facility and saying, I need help.
Yeah.
And if that's how you enter sobriety, or if that's how you find your avenue to being clean. And that's what's a shame is, like, a lot of people, for whatever rhyme or reason, feel like, oh, I can do this on my own. And there's guilt. When you're an addict, there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. And there's a lot of, it is pretty much just constant self-deprecation.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of the reasons.
That's the fuel.
Yeah, that's the fuel to keep using. It's this really shitty cycle you find yourself in.
And you can run from the shame by just saying it and then
easy.
just go to use.
Well, you take something that kills your pain, then you're not so ashamed. It's when you're clean again. It's when you're coming down. You're like, oh, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And it's horrible. And if for not everybody's not lucky enough to have family that loves them. And like Nick, I luckily have a wonderful mom and a wonderful supportive family that, they couldn't reach me at that time. And I understand that, but they never left me. Right. And I'm very fortunate. There's not everyone can say that. Yeah, and that's very sad. And it sucks because those are the people who stay in the addictions.
Yeah. Who don't have that. Yeah, I mean, I've said before on this podcast, and I'll just say it again because I think it's worth repeating, that social support is one of like the most important factors for like good mental health outcomes, and that includes for addiction support too. Like you need people in your life, and like obviously some people are socially isolated. Thank you. Some people are socially isolated, and that's not necessarily their fault, and there's not necessarily anything that you can do about that, but a lot of us have people in our lives and we're not always diligent at reaching out. And so I just encourage everyone, like if you feel like you need support in your addiction recovery or in, if you have mental health issues, definitely reach out to your people. Like it's really important.
Well, yeah, even that. And on the flip side, if you're a homie and you got a friend you're worried about, don't think twice. Just text them. Just say, hey, what's up? And just know, just reach out. It means a lot to people, especially when they're in recovery. And that's like that's one thing, honestly, that's what I bring into the space, or I try to bring into the space when I'm working, especially with people in recovery. And when people are coming in and detoxing, first of all, no shame, dude. Like it does suck.
No judgment.
There is no judgment.
Yeah.
And that's the homies, dude. It's just like, yo, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah.
I know this sucks. We're going to ride this wave. It's going to suck. You got to understand that. But the best part is you're not doing it alone. Right?
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I'm so glad you're in here. Like, I'm glad that you made it in. Like, I'm sorry that you're going through whatever you were going through that brought you here. But not, you know what I say a lot, and maybe it's dark, and maybe I should stop saying. I say, not everybody makes it in here.
No, it's not dark. That's just a true statement. Yeah. But like, in that being said, like, talk to your people on the outside. Like, if you know somebody's hurting, just, I'm here.
Yeah.
Let them know and like support them. And there shouldn't be shame for people to have to ask for help, or for people to go into a facility, whatever that facility may be, and like go into a long-term, if you need long-term rehabilitation, do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best decision you ever made in your life.
It may be expensive, but it's
if you're a person who just needs short-term,
take the investment.
It's the investment. Yeah. Invest in yourself.
Yep.
I will earnestly say, and this is not like a prior, like this is not like this is an ad fill-in or anything like that. I'm just saying straight up, I will never regret the day I stopped using drugs, and I will never regret the day I stopped drinking. And it was the greatest, one of the most greatest days of my life. Yeah. And it is, there's a reason you say it's your birthday. Like it is a true statement. Like the first year, the gratitude you feel, and like the shit that happens within the first year when you become clean, you're like, I've been missing out on this shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, dude, I will never regret getting clean. You know what I do regret? If I ever use again.
Oh yeah.
When I relapsed, that's how I know I'm an addict, right? Like I quit drinking and I do count the time when I used my pills. That was a relapse. And it showed me like, whoa, I have a lot more I need to dive into, and I have a lot more I need to be honest about. And that day, dude, it's insane.
And we see people undergoing that process. Like I mentioned it in the last episode, like we see people maybe for the first time in years for them blossoming into themselves at last.
It's beautiful.
Like they come out of their
really
room.
is.
Maybe they've been sleeping for a few days and they come out and like for the first time we see their personality. But this may be the first time in years that they've even seen their own personality. Like they forgot that they're this like funny, charming person who like loves hip hop or something, like something that we wouldn't know because we wouldn't know if we saw them when they were using because they're disconnected from the things that they like and from themselves. But now like we see them at their lowest point when they're still in the throes of their addiction, but they're trying to get out of it. Then we see them sick and in pain, and then we just see this person emerge like an egg cracking and like this baby being born.
And that's why, and if you notice, a lot of those people they remember you, and I think that brings back to Dylan's point too, is like when you're there for someone, especially, and we're on a limited scale, but what we're doing is we are checking in with them. We are seeing how they're doing, and they remember that through those detoxes. And
the creature comforts too, like, a big part of what we do is just help people be comfortable. So, I mean, how many times have we met someone for the first time, we know they're detoxing, and we just like overflow with kindness. Like, hey, can I get you a blanket? You like it? You warm enough? Can I get you some hot tea? You cold? Like, I got food for you. I got Jello. Like, well, what
nobody can fix it completely, but
no.
make them as comfortable as possible.
Well, that's the thing. You got to go through it. You have to go through it, and no one. I'm not gonna say no one can throw you a life raft because that's kind of what a medical facility is.
Yeah,
is that life raft? Like, you're not gonna drown. Right. We got you, but you gotta swim. Like you have to still do the work. Yeah. And I think that's where people have some misconceptions where they're like, well, if I'm in this facility or if I'm here, I shouldn't feel anything. No. You got to feel it to remember it.
You got to go to battle, and you're going to you're going to get the army with you, and you're going to get, all your supplies, but you still got to go to battle.
Yeah, you still got to fight. Like, it's like, we can't fight for you.
Yeah, you can't sit back and watch someone fight for you and fight those battles.
Good. I like the battle analogy. Also, we'll give you a life raft, but like we can't give you a boat.
No.
You still got to swim.
You have to, dude. And that's what's.
I
think that's what's interesting about detoxes, and the different detoxes, they present very differently, right? It's not all detoxes are the same. And one thing that's vital is like it gets worse the more you do it. It's not like, okay, well, I went through that. It's going to be okay next time. No, it continuously gets worse and worse and worse. And so I urge anybody who does this, like, dude, make it count. Like, remember it.
Yeah.
And just remember that time. Yeah, it's not going to be a great one, but by remembering what the outcome was of what used to be good times, what you thought were good times, remember that pain, because like afterward, it only gets better.
Just don't forget.
And you don't, because like, and that's the thing. Like, when you start really down the path, right? You go through detox, you start getting clean, you can start reflecting, because things will start happening. It's not right away, and you got to do the work, and it's a lot of work, and you just have to keep plugging away. But things start happening, and when things start happening, it's just like a domino effect, and then you start looking back and you're like, whoa.
You start climbing those stairs, back down.
Yeah, and it's insane, the view. Right? Because you're like, so if I had all this energy that I was putting into finding drugs, getting them, using them, hiding them, not telling anybody about them, doing this weird shit that I hated to do. Yeah. If I put all that energy into what I'm doing now, look at how far and how much you can overcome and do. And like let's just the bank account just it's different.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're not living paycheck to paycheck, or you're not, because there's a point when you're looking at every dollar, it's like, oh, I could put that toward, I can get another beer with that, or I can go get something with, I got $15, that's a bag, right? Now you're not like that. You're like, $15, that's a comic book. Or that's a new album.
Or that's $15 more dollars.
That's $15 more dollars in my bank account. What's up?
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's gonna be another 15.
Yeah, exactly. So
10 years, maybe it's a house.
it is. It's like you have to, and that's what's really cool. And like where I bring that up is, again, thanks for complimenting our analogy. The dirt. You're literally building this foundation of just dirt, right? But you're rebuilding it from that detox, and through that detox, like, ooh, that's where.
Yes.
That's where
the
it's
limit,
awesome.
bro. And one thing, like, so we assist people medically through their detox, but then I think it is really valuable that once they come out of their detox and maybe they're going to get into some long-term addiction recovery treatment, or they're going to just go back to where they were living and just try to stay clean while going to meetings. If they're not going into treatment, having that start where once they come out of detox, they have a bunch of people who are supportive. A lot of us are experienced professionals, and we sort of have maybe some insights on detox, or at the very least we kind of know what some healthy approaches are, and we can help connect them to resources, and we have maybe a good or healthy mentality around sort of addiction recovery. That's a good environment to sort of come to in. Yep. You got nurses who can give you medical advice on it. You got techs who've been seen a lot of people detoxing and are like very supportive and sort of know how to talk about the issues in a sensitive way.
Yeah, because when they're leaving, they're going to another battle, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of aspects
real battle,
is the real battle.
Yeah.
Much more difficult. So giving them again all the resources and the army to create behind you, which you're gonna have to create. You're gonna have to find those people that help you stay on that path. Because once you get through a lot of the physical aspects, like that, it's you got to build that strength, and there's no easier way to do that than from the ground.
From the ground, and
that's what detox is there's no lower you can get. You're in the ground.
Right. That can't be. That's often rock bottom for people.
Well, I think it comes down like it's community, and it's there is safety in numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like having somebody at your back to support you through this time means the world.
Yeah.
Whoever that may be. Doesn't matter. And it could be us. Like you said, come join us. Yeah. Come join us.
Talk to us. Send us comments. If you want to share your story too, I think a lot of people, seeing that in the comment sections, I think a lot of people would find that valuable. Sort of firsthand testimonials, like, what's your story? Did you get clean? Like, how many years do you have? Like, people might be inspired and interested to read.
That's part of the purpose of us creating this community. So, people really understand that we're more alike than we are different. And that's what this community is about.
Hell yeah.
Sorry.
I could not agree more.
My apologies.
We are more alike than we are different.
We are.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what's really cool is like, and that's one thing I love. And another reason I love our jobs is I love talking to people. I love getting to know what makes people tick. And I love getting to know people's stories. And I think.
In a lot of aspects, I get to be more myself at my job than even in my own life.
Almost
you know what I mean?
anywhere
Like
else,
I feel,
Yeah. I think that doing the job that we do has trained me to be myself more.
That's a good way to put it.
Because if I'm
that's
on
a really good way to put it.
Like, I don't want to be.
That was much better than I verbalized it, but I 100% agree. No, but I agree.
There are times in my life when I feel less authentic than I do when I'm working on the unit. But working in psych units over the years has taught me how to be myself in a way, because I didn't at a certain point I realized like I can't be an inauthentic, no eye contact, just like shell of a person around these people. Like, I want to be a fun and inspiring person too, like a lot of my patients. And so I feel like I sort of rose to that challenge of like, how can I fully be myself so I can be inspiring, or at the very least supportive for my patients. And working as a mental, like, I'm glad that you joined where we work, man, because I see you have sort of blossomed and come into your own in a way.
100%.
In a way too. Like, you made a lot of progress, and I definitely feel. I mean, I'm sure you did doing your wilderness therapy stuff, obviously, but like, doing what we do has really had a major impact on me and helped me to move through a bunch of challenges of my own too.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's you transform because you have to be authentic. You have to be real, and it's just I don't know. Yeah.
No, I'm
you
blessed.
just said it so eloquently. Like you're right.
And we see the idea that like we're more alike than we are different. Like we are confronted with that beautiful and obvious truth all the time when we work.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy to be authentic when you relate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you understand. Even if you're getting screamed at, if someone's screaming, if they're yelling, you know what I mean? Like you know how they're feeling.
Yeah.
I
know.
hear
Yeah.
you.
You're saying that
100%.
you're in pain. Like I believe you. I see it in your face, and like I also have
Because
felt
I
pain.
remember.
Yeah.
I remember that
Yeah.
feeling. You know.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It is, and Nick said it earlier. It is really rewarding.
Yeah.
And it is something. It's a beautiful moment too, but it is so cool. And that's the other thing about detox is it's 5 or 6 days. Like buckle up for sure, because it is going to be a wild, shitty ride of 5 or 6 days. But the difference you see in 5 or 6 days, whoa.
Yeah.
And it is so cool when you are talking to that same individual at the end of it and you hear difference in their voice. You see difference.
Brightness in their eyes.
Yeah, and you're talking and it's just...
And sometimes they have no memory of several days.
Oh, yeah, a few days just passed. And
it's just... But it's... Wow.
Yeah.
It's like... Yeah,
it's beautiful to see. So I'm blessed that we can do the work we do. I'm blessed to be doing this podcast with you guys. If you like what we're doing, hit like, subscribe, share our content. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify. You can check out our website, unzipmind.com. Am I missing any other housekeeping?
No.
No?
All right.
We're
We
great.
will catch you guys next Monday.
Yeah, we are grateful for all of you. Thank you guys for joining us, for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us over as always.
Toodaloos.
Cool. Till next time.